Hello and welcome to the CFCR Fringe Flyer for Wednesday, August 8th. I'm Ishmael Darrow. These segments play each weekday on the Buzz at 5:30, and if you miss them, you can go to cfcr.ca and listen to them on our blog. On today's show, you'll hear 3 interviews. The first is with Alexa Fitzpatrick, star of Tangled Ribbons.
She decided she hated me. She made sort of little jabs and jives, and one day she threw a stapler at my head, chased me around the theater, screaming at me.
Also, Tim Motley of Dirk Darrow, NCSSI.
Obviously, I have to have some sensibility here because I'm performing in 2012.
And finally, Graham Kent, writer and director of No Rest for the Wicked.
And then it sort of just hit me that I could do everything with sound and just have the audience fill in the blanks.
And that's all coming up right now on the CFCR Fringe Flyer. Alexa Fitzpatrick is a stand-up comedian from Aspen, Colorado. She has worked for the Groundlings Theater, a legendary LA improv group that has produced such talents as Phil Hartman, Conan O'Brien, and Kristen Wiig. She was kicked out of the Groundlings Theater in 2000, setting off a summer of sex, drugs, and charity work as she rode a bus around the United States, putting up signs for cancer walks and the AIDS rides. Her one-person show Tangled Ribbons plays at the Cosmo Senior Center during the Fringe. Alexa Fitzpatrick, welcome to CFCR.
Thank you.
One of the first things that I asked you was, what exactly is an AIDS ride? And I think maybe in Canada, or maybe it's just me, but I certainly wasn't familiar. How does an AIDS ride work?
An AIDS ride is, I guess they're mostly all over the States. It's people raise money, and there's a set amount of money you have to raise, $2,000-$3,000, and to be allowed to even participate. And that's a fundraising commitment that they make. And then they spend their time preparing by raising money and getting in shape, because what then they do is they ride 60 to 100 miles each day for 4 or 5 days to show this huge task that they're accomplishing as sort of a parallel to the huge task of trying to find a cure for AIDS. Mm-hmm. Or breast cancer. Breast cancer, similarly, breast cancer tends to be walks, and AIDS rides obviously, AIDS rides tend to be rides.
Right, bicycle rides.
Yes, bicycle rides.
And your job was to set up a camp where they could stop by, have some food and snacks. And
actually, so basically there was a group of 50 or 60 kids between the ages of about 25 and 45 that lived on these rock and roll style tour buses. And we would travel from event to event, and everybody on the tour bus had a very specific job. So as a group, we would set up camp to camp to camp. So if they were going, say, from San Francisco in California to Los Angeles in California, they would ride maybe 50 miles and they would set up a camp. And then the next morning they'd get up and they'd ride 100 miles and there would be another camp set up. And then we'd break down the old camp and then we'd set it up ahead for the next group, for the next stop. And my job was actually putting up the signs to help them get from camp to camp. So you spend basically 4 days of your life, 4 or 5 days of your life, producing these events that just change people's lives because they get so wrapped up into the community of kindness that they create. And, then 3 days blowing off steam from producing these events that change people's lives, which is where the sex drugs part of the sex drugs and charity events of my story comes in.
Right. You mentioned there was a bit of a rock and roll lifestyle. Let's talk about that. People don't think of charity as having that sort of side to it.
This seedy underbelly of the charity walks. It's actually not that seedy, but when you put a bunch of kids, 25 to 35, all, it's physical labor, so everybody's in pretty good shape. Everybody's has at least a good enough heart that they're wanting to work on this. There's some connection as opposed to, you could do just as well touring with Metallica or, some other tour bus style event and probably have an even crazier lifestyle. But when you put all those people together and you mostly have to be single because you're on the road for 7 months, you sort of develop this sort of alcoholic, incestuous, a little bit drug addicted family. Because you have to, and I guess the drugs sort of come in because you have to keep going. I mean, even just caffeine and just adrenaline and everything you need to get yourself up and then to get yourself down so that when you're working from 3:30 to 10:30 at night, 3:30 in the morning till 10:30 at night, you need to be able to sleep when you need to sleep. And that's, I think, what gets people's cycles going of like needing a couple drinks so that they can fall asleep and needing a ton of caffeine so that they can wake up in the morning and keep going in this ridiculous lifestyle that we put ourselves into.
Abusing the body in order to help others save their bodies.
Exactly. It's a little ironic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The reason you ended up doing this, of course, was we should make clear that you worked with the Groundlings Theater. You were not a performer yourself.
No, I wasn't a performer at the Groundlings, although I think that my departure from the Groundlings was probably as dramatic as just about anything that ever happened on the stage.
So what happened?
In the very beginning of my show, you'll hear that what happened at the Groundlings. I had this woman there who really didn't like me, and it may be because I went out with her ex-boyfriend. I didn't know at the time because, there's just some people you don't really want to follow. Wouldn't have wanted to date somebody who dated her. But we went out. She decided she hated me. She made sort of little jabs and jives. And one day she threw a stapler at my head, chased me around the theater, screaming at me that she would kill me if I just took the first swing. So, she was a little off, like a little bit crazy. That's sort of a crazy offer to make. And, she's kind of built like a linebacker. So I sort of knew that taking a swing at her was not my smartest move. And I didn't. Instead, I locked myself in the box office and I called the police. But the police showed up and I tried to explain what had happened. And the theater, who knew that she'd been kind of harassing me all along, just didn't ever say anything. I said that I wouldn't set foot on the property until they took some steps to protect me, and they didn't. So,
in effect, banning you then.
In effect, banning me. But ironically, they couldn't fire me for getting attacked. So they had to pay my salary until they figured out how to really get rid of me. So I got paid for a fair stretch of time after that. And I was a young kid. I don't know if I would ride that now, but I was a young kid at the time. So I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. I get paid and I don't have to go to work. I don't care if you guys ever take care of it, but... I did, because it was sort of the point.
You're a stand-up comedian, and I imagine being with the Groundlings, even though it's not stand-up, it's improv, it must have been a fertile ground for comedy. How did you go from that environment to charity work? Because I imagine you were with the Groundlings Theater for that environment. I was with the Groundlings for that environment.
Getting the job was sort of dumb luck. I had a friend who worked for a guy who was on the board. Like, it was one of those, LA sort of networking, ridiculous, this person is that person is that person. And I did love working there for a while. But yeah, I did go there for that. And it was a very sort of fun place to do comedy and be in LA.
Now, you were still very young when this happened. And then you go from one very intense environment to another very intense environment. There must have been, I think part of the show is that there's a lot of sexual frustrations that come out as well.
I think you're right. You're right. I mean, I hope that now 10 years later I've figured some of this stuff out, but it's definitely, the show bounces around in terms of what you're looking for in a relationship and what you expect from the outside world versus what you look to yourself to find. I'm putting up signs, and there's sort of the irony of I'm the one putting up the signs, but I have no idea where to go. And that's kind of the theme throughout the show.
And then you were doing this for one summer, and ultimately, did you find your way back to a life that made sense?
Well, I'm touring with the Fringe circuit, so yes, of course I did.
I guess touring appealed to you, though.
Touring again, but it's different when you're touring on your own time and your own world as opposed to touring on, in somebody else's land. And that's not to say, these events are amazing and they do change people's lives. And I think from watching the show, you really get that I believe that, even though, and most of the problems that I have are my own creation, as they are when you're young and we're all sort of in circles trying to figure out who we are and what we're doing. But these events are pretty amazing in terms of what they accomplish and what they do and the amount of money they've raised. And there is a vaccine for AIDS I don't know how effective it is yet, but it's on the FDA's desk, at least the Food and Drug Administration in the US. So there has been a lot of progress in 10 years. I do feel like it's a good, it leads to a good place.
Now, when you're on stage, and you mentioned that you're not an actress,
I would love to be, but I feel like it's not fair to claim.
but you're a comedian first. In your performance, do you find a lot of crossover, or is this really a whole new game for you?
There's a touch of crossover, but it both. I think I'm as a person on stage, I'm a lot more likely to jump out of character and make a joke about the room just because that's my nature, or jump around in my head versus somebody who really knows what they're doing as an actor. But I think I don't know. I mean, I guess I've never been an actress, so I don't know how I might approach it differently if I were. I learned what a dramaturge was yesterday. That was exciting. That's the great thing about Fringe. You get educated. I mean, obviously I'm joking about that, but like you just learn so much. I've seen so many great shows already, and I haven't even opened yet, and I've already seen 5 great shows. So
Right. We're recording this on the weekend, and you have your opening show
right.
later tonight.
Yes, Saturday night. So I guess by the time you guys are all hearing this, it will be done. I will have survived it. Yay.
Hopefully you'll have survived opening night, and it can only get better and better.
Exactly.
It's been a pleasure having you in the studio, and best of luck with Tangled Ribbons.
Thank you so much.
That was Alexa Fitzpatrick, star of Tangled Ribbons. You can see the play at the Cosmos Senior Center, and the next show is today at 6:35. Tim Motley is originally from Philadelphia, but he spent the last 2 decades in Melbourne, Australia. He's a stand-up comedian, actor, and he dabbles in magic. His show Dirk Darrow NCSSI is a comedy mind-reading murder mystery. It plays at the Victoria School Upstairs Auditorium. He was in studio earlier this week to talk about the play.
I am a stand-up comic by trade originally, so anything I do is going to have a touch of whimsical to it. The idea of this show, I wanted to see if it was possible to combine magic and comedy to an actual show with a plot, right? As opposed to a thin veneer thrown on top. Or I've been 25 years I've been in this in the business. I've never seen a magic show that was actually a real show with a plot and characters and theme and all this. You see that maybe a routine, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But I wanted to see if it was possible to add the magic like the special effects to a show. There would be a novel concept, much like the way, say you watch Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I just watched that recently, and that was a great movie. It had the way the CGI was weaved in, you couldn't even tell what was effect and what was not, and what was actually real. That's what I wanted with an actual stage show, so that they couldn't tell what was really good detective work and what was actually a mind-reading trick.
And what sort of, can you give us away, what sort of tricks or illusions might one see at Dirk Darrow?
Oh, there's a few. Mostly they're mind-reading tricks. Yeah, mostly they're mentalism tricks. I'll give you an example. I want you right now to think of a murder weapon. But think of a murder weapon that you've been thinking of for, I don't know, say about 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm thinking of this weapon.
Yeah. Is it a wrench?
How did you know that?
Because I'm really, really good.
Okay. Now, before we started recording, we tried this, and and I thought I had fooled him.
Is that an elephant that walked into the room? What's that?
Well, you did get the wrench eventually. What is the basic plot of Dirk Darrow, though? During the preview night, you did a brief segment where you seem to have fallen for one of your clients.
Ah, yes. The love story. Every good play needs one. Yes, the central driving motivation for the plot is a love story. It's a love story. It's unrequited love, lost love, and of course a murder. Because what murder mystery would be complete without it?
Is this character based on anyone in particular? You did create the character, so what were your inspirations for it?
Well, I've always had a love for all things noir. But I never really paid much attention. I actually came up with the concept first when I was lying, and I woke up literally in a puddle on Skid Row in Manhattan after seeing these burlesque girls and the night before, and the way that they captured the mood of the 40 was brilliant, and I thought that would really fit a particular trick which I had done years before and stopped doing it because it was too anachronistic. It was too pushing the willingness of the audience or the suspense of disbelief. So I stopped doing it. But when I saw that, when the 40s, I thought, But if I had cased it around that would be brilliant. And unlike the burlesque girls, I could also actually make it entertaining. So I then researched noir, and I was stunned. I watched all the old movies. You know, you watch it when you're a kid. It's kind of on TV and in the kitchen. You're not really paying attention. I really took time, and I took like a year and watched every noir I could possibly find. Which is noir. Interestingly enough, it's not films that are the classic noir films were not called noir at the time. It was labeled later by French film critics and grouped as a genre after the fact called noir. They were just crime stories, you know, and they were brilliant. They were hard and edgy, and they would say things. The way the characters would interact wouldn't be allowed today. I think a lot of it, especially you watch some of those old Bogey films. Damn, that is a harsh man.
Bogey is not always kind to the women, I found.
No, he's not. He's not. Obviously, I have to have some sensibility here because I'm performing in 2012. But my character is lost in time and out of time. But when there are a couple of points in the show where the character has an attitude that's not the same as contemporary politically correct sensibilities. But in those cases, he'll make reference to it. You know, there'll be a joke about it.
Is the show set in present day, or is it of a previous time?
The show is set in previous time, in 1937. However, the audience is clearly not. So the dichotomy and the juxtaposition between the two times is one of the chief source of the comedy in the show.
Well, and then again, you have to be careful because sometimes the anachronisms can be funny. But then if you start going on a pro-fascism rant because it's 1937, you might lose the audience.
Yeah. No, I don't. None of the noir detectives were pro-fascist.
Let's hope not.
They were always one man, gritty, out of the system, trying to just make their way through the world and survive by any means necessary.
Where have you performed Dirk Darrow so far?
Well, it's sold out seasons at the Adelaide and Edmonton Fringe Festivals, which are the world's second and third largest Fringe festivals, very competitive. It's also been many of the festivals in Australia and US and Canada. Has done the Melbourne Comedy Festival, Perth Fringe Festival, did very well there. Recently, I just did Ottawa Fringe Festival about a month ago. And Orlando just before that. Did very well in those as well. Did Hamilton and Wilmington last year. What else? Oh, a festival in Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. Mm-hmm. Too many wombats for my liking. Otherwise, you know, it was a good festival.
Well, it's certainly taken you all over the place, and your reviews seem to be very good as well.
Go on. There's no accounting for taste.
4 stars, very funny. 4 stars, edge of your seat. That's all very good praise. The show Dirk Darrow, NCSSI, not completely serious supernatural investigator, plays at the Victoria School.
Victoria School Upstairs Auditorium.
Tim Motley, thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
You can still catch Dirk Darrow at the Saskatoon Fringe. There are 3 shows left. The next one is today at 6:30. Okay, I'm here with Graham Kent, the writer and director of No Rest for the Wicked. Hi, Graham. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
I just saw the show, mm-hmm. and for those who haven't read the Fringe handbook as thoroughly as I have, it's a radio play done on stage. Mm-hmm. So what was the inspiration for that?
Well, I had always wanted to write a play about a post-apocalyptic wasteland, but it's hard to put that all on stage because you're trying to put this gigantic, expansive world onto this small wooden square. So I had been doing a radio play at the university, and then it sort of just hit me that I could do everything with sound and just have the audience fill in the blanks. So that was sort of the inspiration behind making it a radio play, but yeah.
And it's actually quite funny. I have a soft spot for old radio plays, so but to actually see somebody on stage, the story is something like crazed zombies trying to eat brains.
Yeah.
But there's actually somebody on stage just chewing lettuce
Yeah.
to make the crunching noises, or popping a balloon for a gunshot. Did you? Was there anything specifically you drew inspiration from? Did you listen to lots of old radio plays?
Yeah. I downloaded something called, it was like the horror radio show Creepy Hour or something, and there was like 20 plays in there, and I listened to those, and then I just kept going into archives and listening to more and more and more, and that's how I was getting the style of it down and everything.
You've worked with Greystone Theatre before?
Yes.
And you've done other plays at the Fringe in previous years. So what's it like coming back for the second, third year in a row, and do you feel more confident, or do you think you're still learning things?
I'm more confident, but I'm definitely still learning. There's times where I think about what I need to be doing, and then I'm like, okay, I can do this, and this, but then I'm like, I don't know what to do here. And it's stuff like knowing when to poster, knowing when to flyer, how to sell my show. I'm learning every single year differently, because it's always a different experience, but yeah.
Is there any chance that you might take the show on the road, travel to other Fringe festivals?
That's the plan. We've been doing quite well, so my hope is to edit out some stuff that I've noticed over the past week that doesn't need to be there anymore, and then sort of reform it and then put it in a suitcase so it can go across Canada.
One of the nice things about seeing a Saskatoon production is that the cast can be bigger, you can have a few more props, and a lot of the traveling shows, just because of financial necessity, tend to be one-man shows, maybe 2 or 3 people. So do you have a slimmed-down version of No Rest for the Wicked that would just be maybe 2 people?
It's 4 at the max, is what I figured out, I think. Yeah. I think there's a few characters that can be put together as one person, and then a few actors who could do a bit more, because some of them are sitting around sometimes. So.
Yeah. I thought it was quite funny that you have a series of microphones on stage, but I don't know if most of them are live, but it's supposed to be the illusion of they're in a radio station.
Yeah.
So as one actor is giving the line about, "Oh no, put down the gun,"
Yeah.
the other actors behind them are just standing there smoking, drinking.
Yeah.
But it's impressive, because by the end of the show, let's say the climax, where I guess the crazed hordes are finally attacking, even though people were really just standing on stage reading lines, by that point I was so immersed in the zombie story that I really wanted to get to the end of it. So it was impressive that I actually bought the story within the story.
Awesome.
Talk about your actors. You've got local actors, obviously. How did you get hooked up with this group, and have you worked with them before?
One of the actors in the group who's playing the lead, Jordan Svengason, I've done every Fringe show that I've written, he's been in, because he's a good friend of mine, and he's a very consistent actor, so I like to work with him. One of the other actors, Morgan Murray, I went all through my schooling with at the university, and we formed another theater company that we're doing some stuff in the fall with. Emily was also in the program with me. I have a bunch of new bloods. There's 3 people in my show who are going into 2nd and 3rd year, and this is their first Fringe. They're people that I had worked on shows with in the past, or just seen in the past, and they all just came out and auditioned, and it was a nice little grab bag of people, different experience levels and everything.
Is there any chance that you might actually put on the radio play for real? Because this is a radio station. We could potentially set up some balloons and some lettuce and start crunching heads and popping, shooting off some guns.
I think it would be pretty awesome to actually do it as a radio play.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, if you do, let me know, because again, I'm a huge fan of both your play and radio plays generally. So let me know. Graham, thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me again.
That was Graham Kent, writer and director of No Rest for the Wicked, which you can see at the Oskayak High School Gym Thursday at 8:15 or Saturday at 3:15.
S'il faut tirer la queue du chien qui m'a mordu la veille, ma langue au chat, je suis mordu. Bon, je suis attaché, tenu en laisse à cran d'arrêt.
And that's it for the show. You've been listening to the CFCR Fringe Flyer for Wednesday, August 8th. If you're interested in winning a couple tickets to see some Fringe shows, email CFCR at contests@cfcr.ca. That's contests, plural. And you and a friend could be off to see a show tonight. There's only a few days left of the Fringe, so please get out there and see as much as you can. The next Fringe Flyer is coming out tomorrow at 5:30 right here on The Buzz. And remember, you can catch all these segments at cfcr.ca on our blog. Thank you so much for listening.
Ma bite, cet homme, je suis mordu.